Willis, and I'm your son's teacher. I just want to thank you for coming in today so we can talk about some things that I've noticed in class that are both positive and negative. So do you have any questions before we start?
Well, I guess my first question is, overall, how would you say my child is doing in your class?
Overall, I think that he's doing well. However, lately I have seen somewhat of a slip in his grades, and he just seems to be very inattentive during class time and with the classwork. So I was just wondering if there's anything going on at home that I should be aware of that might affect this.
Gosh, I really can't think of anything in particular that could be going on in the house. Do you think that maybe some things are distracting him in class, maybe?
I have seen some of his friends do distract him while in class, so I have moved him away from them, but he almost seems to be retaliating because I moved him by not doing his work, because lately I've noticed he's been very unmotivated, and he won't do his work, and he won't participate in class. However, when I call on him in class, he does know the answer. So he does know the material, he just seems unmotivated to work in class on his classwork. However, on a positive note, last week we had a project where he had to work with his peers. It was a group of 3 to 4 people on a project, and he did very well socializing with his peers and behaving appropriately, and he really worked well in the group and actually did contribute a lot to the group, and I know they thoroughly enjoyed working with him.
Well, Johnny has really expressed to me that he enjoys going to class. It surprises me that you're telling me that he has a lack of motivation. When he comes home, I always ask him about his homework, and he always tells me what he has, and he goes immediately to his room and he does his homework. It's just really surprising. Could you give me more detail about the behavior that you're seeing in class with Johnny?
Yes, like I'll give him a worksheet, and they'll have a certain amount of time to work on it, and I'll look over and he'll be fidgeting with his pencil or looking to talk to one of his friends, and sometimes he honestly looks for anything to do rather than work on his work.
Yeah, well, that part about being social, it really does sound like my Johnny. He's always been a talker, and he really loves to talk. I do try to remind him that at school, it's really inappropriate to talk while the teacher is talking and things like that, but without being in the classroom myself, it's really hard to figure out what I can do to make sure that he stays on task. Do you have any suggestions for anything that I might be able to tell him?
Yes, we have tried a token economy with him. If he does something, he gets a ticket, and then at the end of the week, he can take the tickets, and actually there's a school store where they can use the tickets to buy certain things, and he really has responded well to that. And actually, I have some examples of some work that he's done in class. When he actually takes the time to sit down and work, you can see that every question is answered, and they are correct. So it's just, he knows the material, it's just getting him to do the work, which is the hard part.
Wow. I really didn't expect this coming into the conference. I mean, I do understand that you called me to meet here, but I honestly thought that I was going to hear nothing but good things. I'm very concerned, though, about the things that you've talked about my little Johnny's lack of motivation in class. I want him to be able to make the best grades and do the best that he can do at school, but I just really don't know what could be the problem. You asked about our home situation, and earlier I said that, I didn't really think, that anything different was going on at home that could affect his school behavior, but now that I've had some time to think about it, recently Johnny's grandmother passed away, and he was very, very attached to her. And they would spend a lot of time together, and he always calls her and talks on the phone with her. I'm wondering now, maybe having heard this from you, could the passing of Johnny's grandmother be somehow affecting his behavior? But, gee, I just really can't think of anything.
Well, I know that if he is suffering with the loss of his grandmother, there are services through the school and outside the school that could maybe help him cope with this in a better way rather than hurting his schoolwork. And I sat down with a couple teachers and just thought how this would work. I made up a checklist for him, as you can see, And so everything he has to do is presented to him in order, just to help him kind of remain on task, and hopefully that will bring up the motivation because it's right in front
This
of him.
document is really detailed.
I actually have another copy if you would like it to take home with you. So
Yes,
you
I
get it. So you
would.
can actually also use that in the home to help him remain on task. And again, if you have any questions or any concerns, please call me at any time. I want us to have a good working relationship so that Johnny can do the best that he can in school. So you take that with you.
Do you think that you could write down your phone number
Yes, I could.
for me to contact you?
And then I'll write my email.
Gosh, I was really thinking, maybe, is there a way that you could possibly separate Johnny from the classmates that he is more likely to talk to in class? I mean, I'm not talking about a whole isolation
Yes.
thing,
Mhm.
I do want my Johnny to be social, but do you think that maybe you could work it out to where his seating changes in the classroom?
Yes, I could maybe, he sits on the side of the room, his friends sit here, and he sits here. I could possibly move him to the other side of the room so that the distraction and the temptation is not there. But like you said, I don't want to isolate him from his peers because I think that peer relationship is very important in his development.
Yeah.
I just wanted to spend the last part of the meeting going over some odds and ends. Johnny is in 5th grade, so he will be transitioning to 6th grade next year in middle school. It's a big step. I was just wondering how you felt about the transition.
Well, I'm looking forward to the transition, and so is Johnny. I've been preparing him at home by telling him how things are going to be different. I understand that in 6th grade, the students don't stay in the same classroom as they do and as he has throughout all of his elementary years. I have spoken to him about how he'll have to change and go from class to class and will be with different instructors at various times of the day, but I don't think that Johnny quite understands what it's going to take. I don't think that I quite know the things to tell him to really prepare him for moving on and going into the 6th grade.
Well, what we can do is towards the end of the year, of course, throughout the year we're going to help him with this transition, but towards the end of the year we can maybe have him switch classes a couple times a day just so he'll get the feel for it so when he walks in the first day of 6th grade, it's not a huge shock to him about having to switch classes. And you also know that because he's transitioning, his IEP will have to be reviewed before it is passed on to him.
His IEP will have to be reviewed.
Yes, it's called a 3-year review. Before each transition, the IEP has to be reviewed, so goals can be taken in and out, and then that needs to be passed on to the next
Will there
school.
be any changes to the services that Johnny receives now?
I don't believe so, but again, if you want services to be changed, you can request to have a meeting and have those services changed. And then, you know that the IEP will be reviewed annually in middle school, so that if any changes do occur, the changes can be made on the IEP.
Now, I was present at Johnny's last IEP meeting, but will I have to be present for this meeting?
Yes, you will.
Gosh, that's a lot of meetings.
It's all for the benefit of your son. And I was wondering if you still felt the same, how you want your son to be included, you do not want him to be in a self-contained classroom.
Yeah, I still feel the same way about inclusion, and I would love for Johnny to have as much time as he can with other typically developing peers. I understand that Johnny's behavior can sometimes be distracting to other members of the class, but I really value him having the opportunity to be included in a general education classroom, and I think just putting him in a self-contained classroom would really kind of take away that whole school experience for him. But, of course, when we have meetings like this and then I hear about things going on in his behavior, I wonder whether or not I'm making the right decision for him.
I think you are, just based on the fact that, well, like I said earlier, when he participated in that project with his peers, he really does feed off of the peer relationship, and I think I've seen a growth in him as far as that is concerned, a huge growth in this past year. So I think that the behavior, it may just be age typical, you're getting to be 6th grade, don't really want to pay attention, but I think overall, I think he really does benefit from the peer relationships and the friends that he's forming in his classes.
Yeah, well, I sure hope so. School can be tough for anyone, and with Johnny having ADHD, it's even harder for him. But I try to work with him on his goals, and I try to do the best that I can to work on things that he has trouble with. But it's oftentimes challenging for me, and sometimes I just wonder whether or not I'm doing the right thing for him.
Well, I think you are, and also we are here to support you, and we want a good working relationship with the school and the parents. So if you are open to suggestions, we are open to suggestions. The line of communication is always open because overall we both want the same thing, and that's for Johnny to succeed in school. So if you have any questions, concerns, anything, like I said, my number is on the checklist. Don't be afraid to call or email me. And also you could use the checklist at home to kind of help with the behavior at home if you see this behavior arise while at home. But like I said, he is getting into middle school. He's a boy, like rowdy and everything, and school kind of isn't that much fun anymore. So if you do see the behavior appear at home, you can use the checklist, and every teacher will have the checklist here so that they can keep him on task.
Oh, you say every teacher will have the checklist? So that means that everyone will be kind of recording how my Johnny is doing in class? Will I get an update?
Yes, of course. If you want, I can send you weekly updates.
I'd really like that.
Okay. And I don't want you to take like the negative feeling away from this, because overall he is doing very well in school. He's working with others. When he does his work is correct, so he knows the material. It's just we got to keep him on task so that he can continue to learn the material. So do you have any other questions, concerns?
Well, I guess if I were to think of one question, it would be, is there any way that we can kind of include Johnny when we're having these talks? I know that he's only, in the 5th grade now, but he's beginning to understand a lot about what's going on with his life and about his ADHD condition. And sometimes I wonder if allowing him to kind of sit in on some of these meetings that I go to with his teachers might be helpful for him to understand, what's being said to me about his behavior in the classroom and things that we talk about during the meeting. Do you think that it would be a good idea, or is it possible if I could include Johnny in these sorts of meetings?
I think that when he gets a little bit older he can. I think right now it'd be best, but maybe in middle school you can start bringing him into the meetings more so that he can better understand. And in middle school there'll be a lot more services, a lot more students. I think it'll be a lot more overwhelming for him, so I think it would be a good thing if you brought him into the meetings in school.
Well, gee, that sounds like a okay idea. I was just really kind of thinking that allowing him to sit in might kind of help, but I appreciate your suggestion, and I think I understand where you're coming from when you say that maybe he needs to be a little older. It's just that sometimes it's very complicated to try to explain to him what needs to be done in the school. You see, Johnny, at home he's fine,
Mm-hmm.
He's a wonderful child, and I guess it's because we're not really asking him to perform academic tasks like he's challenged to do in school, but it's just really hard for me to see him one way at home and then to come to school and understand that, he really has some areas that need to be worked on.
What I could do is provide you with strategies at home and provide information to you so that you can take the information, read it, and put it into your own words, and maybe Johnny will better understand because you are his mother, it is coming from you. I feel like that may mean a little bit more to him than just having a teacher say it to him, because he sees me all the time and usually I'm grading what he does. So I think if I gave you the information, you read it, and maybe thought of more strategies that you could provide us, or even explain the information to him in your own words and words that you think he will better understand, that could also kind of help bridge the gap from home to school.
That all sounds great. I think I'd really like that. When do you think you'd be able to kind of help me with those suggestions?
If you would like, you could come in after school one day this week, and I can push my planning back to meet with you. Because because I think this takes precedent over planning.
Gosh, but I work really long hours, so I know that I've probably never mentioned this before, and it's really hard for me to make these meetings during the week. I know that it's important, and I really value being a part of Johnny's education, but it's just the weekdays are really hard for me with work and everything. Is there any way that we could maybe get together on the weekend, or that doesn't seem like it's good for you, huh?
What I could do is either send a packet of information home with Johnny and he can give it to you. It'll be in a sealed envelope and I'll be able to open. So you have all the information, could read through it and make that. Or I can send it to you in an email and we can have that email correspondence if that's easier for you.
Yeah, well, I really like the face-to-face contact that we have, and, written things. Sometimes I feel like things can get kind of lost in the details. It's different when you have someone telling you face-to-face.
Well, you also have my phone number, my cell phone number.
I
If
do.
you'd like to do it over the phone, that way it's not in written form, but I'm still kind of talking to you, but it's not really face-to-face.
Yeah.
Or I also have a Skype.
You Skype?
Yes, I Skype.
Oh my gosh! Well, now that just sounds
Yes, so we can
fantastic.
Skype, and that way you have the face-to-face, but you don't have to come in and meet. And it can be done.
Skyping would be awesome for
On
me.
this, I'll write my Skype name so you can Skype
I
me.
really appreciate that.
There you go. So that makes it easier for everyone, and we can have these conversations where we can discuss strategies to better help us and you, kind of help Johnny get into the swing of things and get his focus back onto school.
Absolutely. The information that you've provided me with today has been really helpful. Of course, I'll make copies of this checklist and try to go over some of the things on it at home with Johnny. Of course, it'll be really hard for me to keep him on such a strict schedule outside of school, I like for him to be able to have fun and hang out when he's at home, but
If you
I understand that he has things that he needs to work on.
You can actually modify it to better fit what you want, because like I said, I think a working relationship is all about a compromise. So this is a school checklist, so feel free to make modifications for your home checklist so that everything is easier for you at home, and you want what you want at home and we want what we want at school, and that way it's kind of a happy medium, if that would make it easier for you. You can use this as a baseline, but kind of make your own modifications and additions where you see it fit. Does that sound good?
Actually, it really does sound good. Like, this one statement in particular works well with peers. I may be his mother, but I don't think he would necessarily consider me to be his peer. So I'd probably make modifications to that statement and a couple of the others that I see here, but I notice that it's very detailed, and some of the things are applicable, to his home environment, so I probably won't have to make too many changes, but it's nice to really have this.
Which is also good because you know what he's doing at school, so it's kind of, again, the lines of communication are open and you know what's going on in the classroom while you're at work, so everything's kind of structured.
Yeah, and I guess from now on, I'll be really looking forward to getting those weekly updates on Johnny's behavior from your version of this checklist, because, well, like I said, it's important to me how he does in school, and I want the best for Johnny, and I also want him to enjoy his education. He has fun at school, but maybe a little too much fun, I guess.
Too much fun. But like I said, thank you for coming in and meeting with us, and we really do want a good working relationship, and we are here to collaborate with you on any possible issue that comes up. So you have my phone, my email, and my Skype. So
Yes, I do.
Please don't be afraid to contact me if something comes up, and we can kind of work it out, because we are open to compromising, and we hope that you are compromising as well, so that Johnny does the best in school and he can really succeed.
Well, thanks a lot. It was really great meeting with you this evening, and I appreciate everything that you had to say, and I look forward to our next meeting.
Yes.